A recently released study from Bloomberg shows the most and least stressed countries in the world. Now, if you're in Norway or if you're in Luxembourg, you're sitting pretty because you're in one of the least stressed nations in the world. Now, quite unfortunately for South Africa, we're number 2 after Nigeria. The study took into account things like GDP and also the homicide rate. But why are we so stressed, and is there anything we can do about it? Well, I'm joined on the line by Despina Learmonth. She's a health and counseling psychologist, and she's going to help us make sense of these findings. Despina, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. It's really lovely to be with you.
Now, this is a bit of a worrying statistic that we are the second most stressed country in the world, only after Nigeria.
Yeah, and having a look at that Bloomberg report, I noticed one of the things I teach is health psychology, is that our Gini coefficient is is the highest actually on that list. And there's been numerous studies that have shown that the greater the inequality in a society, as they call us an inegalitarian society, the more likely there is to be stress amongst populations and lower health outcomes, so poor health outcomes, as well as often violence and crime.
And we certainly know that's what's happening in the country. In fact, in the last 2 weeks, we've been privy to the State of the Nation address and the State of the Nation debates, where our politicians are really hashing out these real social issues, in that most South Africans don't live like you and I do.
Yeah. And it's very unfortunate again, although what I'd really like to highlight is that although we have a huge population that are very impoverished and really have basic human rights which are being violated all of the time on a daily basis, we also, as those who are very privileged and even the most wealthy people in the country, will be adversely affected by this huge gap in economic prosperity, being that reflected in that high Gini coefficient. So everyone right throughout the whole nation will be adversely affected, but obviously the poorest of the poor being the most affected.
So obviously that's going to take some real political action for us to remedy the situation. Government really needs to sort out this problem.
Yeah. But again, as citizens, I mean, often I find that we can feel we can actually feel quite hopeless and helpless if we're always relying on the government and thinking if they don't do something, then we're almost like victims trapped in this terrible situation. And I think that's what can lead to very enhanced or high stress levels. So as citizens, there are things we can do to manage our own stress. Obviously, the fact that there's a lot of people unemployed and things like that can be very frightening. But for those of us, especially those of us who are privileged, but even those of us who are not, I think it's looking to become a greater part of your community. Because often this kind of thing, or the kinds of indicators that are reflected in that report, can lead to greater alienation amongst citizens, which also leads to heightened stress right across the nation. So it's about thinking, how can I become more involved in my wider community? Not just my close family and friends, but my wider community. What can I actively do to help the situation so I don't just feel like I'm kind of a sitting duck and everything's being done to me and there's nothing that I can do to help myself or others?
Do you find that, in your professional opinion, people who have a larger sense of community and support structures around them are better equipped to deal with stresses?
Absolutely. I mean, social support is really important in dealing with stress. So the greater your social support network, and when I say social support, I mean positive social support, obviously not those who would encourage you to go out and have many drinks or spend 3 days partying, although that might be quite good for your sense of self and relieving stress in some ways. But it's important that you have positive structures in place that really have your best interests at heart and can be there for you when you need them. And I also think providing others with social support is so important for you to feel like you're an active member of your community and of your society.
Let's speak a little bit to the South African who read that report and thought, yes, that is me. I do feel like the second most stressed person on the planet. Where do you begin in dealing with this stress? Because it's obviously unsustainable. We can't keep shouldering this burden of stress day in and day out.
Yeah, I think one of the very important things is to start learning basic self-help techniques in terms of, so besides becoming proactive within your community and doing things for others, you obviously have to look after yourself as well. So doing things like learning how to do deep breathing techniques, which are very simple. Anyone no matter where you come from and what resources you have or don't have at your disposal, can do this. And so you would do some, you could Google it, or you could ask a friend just teaching you how to deep breathe from your diaphragm, and every morning breathing, and maybe a little bit of meditation, or if you have a religious affiliation, some prayer, just to have some minutes where you kind of calm yourself down. And this may need to happen a couple of times a day when your mind starts worrying and you think, oh no, it's so overwhelming and I really just can't cope. So slow yourself down and just try and break down each problem and see it in isolation rather than this overwhelming, huge pile of things that you're never going to be able to deal with.